Okay. Well, I'm Daniela. This is
I'm Ashley.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, I have like just for background, I'm a really
Mhm.
healthy person, so this is a wild, wild story.
Yeah.
I came home from work one day and I started to feel unwell, and at that time, Ashley was a roommate in my house, and I began to feel unwell, and I had called the paramedics and found out that I was having severe blood loss. And I went to the ER. The ER sent me home. They're like, "You're fine. Everything's fine." I went home. And then within a couple hours of coming home, I was just sitting in bed, walked into the bathroom, and I had lost consciousness in the restroom. And at that point, you should share what you know.
Yeah, so it was kind of wild because I was doing my internship with Chris because I went to Bethel, and then for my third year, I came up and moved to intern with Chris. And I was working at the psych ward night shift, so I would do 12-hour night shifts. And I had just got home, so I was so tired. And out of nowhere, I just woke up. And usually it takes me a while. Like, I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a
But
slow
I just
burn. Yeah.
woke up out of nowhere and I heard the smallest, like, faint. Like, it was just like, and I was like, I don't know how instantly I knew. I just jumped up and I ran into Daniela's bathroom and I found her on the ground. And I looked at her and she was so pale, like a ghost. And I was like, Daniela, D. Oh, I call her D. I'm like, D, you okay? And she was like, I think I'm dying. And I was like, in my head, yeah, she looked like she was dying medically.
Yeah.
But I looked at her and I'm
Yeah.
like, no, you're not dying. We're going to get you
Yeah.
up. We're going to get you changed and I'm going to get you to
Yeah.
the hospital right now. And I know, like, instantly, like, in those moments, you have to have you have to be so calm.
Yeah.
And you have to know that you have peace so that the other person can have peace. And I'm like, no, you're going to be fine. Like, I'm just going to speak life. Like, no, you're not going to die. You're going to get up. I'm going to go. And as soon as when we literally walk into the hospital, she faints. And like, they like rush in and they like hook her up to all these IVs and everything like that. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm laying in the hospital and I kept telling them, I think something's getting worse. And it was kind of like, no, you're fine. And so actually the Compassion to Action team, I wasn't even on the team yet, but they were the ones that came to the hospital like, no, we're going to pray for you. We're going to make sure it's fine. Chris came to the hospital. The entire team was taking turns to come into my room and just speak healing.
Yeah.
And no doctor at that point had any grid for what was going on. Everybody, they were, they had done the scopes. They were like, you have no source of bleed, but you are like pouring out blood. And it came not even 24 hours after I had visited the hospital. I was rapidly declining. And I got up and I went to the restroom. And Ashley was in the room. One of my good friends was in the room, and a family member of mine, a cousin, was in the room. And in that moment, when I got up and I went into the restroom, that's literally where I lost it. Like, I lost so much blood that I literally flatlined in that bathroom.
Oh my goodness. So you were just bleeding internally.
Yeah, it was just coming out. And
Oh
I remember
goodness.
coming to the restroom, and I was like, I started to see the light, and I was like, this is weird. And I could barely tap the bathroom. And I think you had come in to check, and you ran in and you ran out to call the code, and my cousin ran in just in time, and she caught me. And she told me, even to this day, because she's a nurse, she's been a nurse for a long time, she said, I've had a lot of people die on my watch. I've never felt someone actually lift out of themselves when I'm holding them. And so I think it was a surreal experience for everyone, but this is the part that always I'm like, okay, God, this is you. They got me onto that bed and they called a code. And so it was like, 20 doctors and nurses in that room. It was a lot of people. The room was crammed. And this is all, so at this point, this is all part of the story I've recounted from my 3 friends that were in the room.
Yeah.
And
Ashley, obviously you're still there at this point.
Yeah, I was in the room.
Yeah.
And they got me on the bed. They're trying to get a heartbeat on me. They're trying to get me back, and all the machines aren't working. It's not working right. And at that point, I had lost so much blood that I had 1/8 of the blood left in my body.
Oh my goodness.
You can imagine, your veins are full. They were flat. They couldn't get an IV in me.
Oh
They
my goodness.
could not resuscitate me. They're, and actually in that moment, what had happened when I had, died on earth, I was caught up in this heavenly experience where it felt like unsurpassable peace was there. I wasn't scared of death. I wasn't like freaking out. There was none of that weirdness. It was completely peaceful.
Wow.
And I remember seeing the Lord, and I was like, somehow I processed, oh, I'm not alive anymore. And I was just looking at the Lord, and ever since I've been a child, I had this Bible verse with the Lord that I was always like, I'm going to read it to you. It's Exodus 20:12. It says, honor your mother and your father, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God is giving you. And I remember telling the Lord when I was a kid, I was like, God, I want a long life. So I'm just going to honor my mom and dad because I want a long life. So I'm just going to keep pushing for this. And it was honestly, it was a life verse that became a rock for me. And I remember looking at the Lord and being like, Jesus, I thought we had a deal. And
come on.
I saw the smile come across his face, and he just turned and started walking the opposite way. And it was in that moment I realized, oh, he's giving me my life back. And this sing out this song of healing came out, and I began to sing out the song of healing to Jesus as he was walking back. And what's wild is actually in the physical, in the room, they still didn't have a heartbeat. I was still flatlined. The machines were still not working. But as I was laying flat, I began to sing out that song that I was singing in the spirit, in the physical.
Dude.
Yeah. Wild. And so everyone in that room couldn't figure out who was singing because no one thought to look at me. But was it you that told me when you saw that it was me?
Yeah, because me and the other girl, Olga, we were in the corner praying because we were just like, they can do all these medical things, but we need resurrection power right now.
Yeah.
So we were just in the corner praying, and then the room, I just heard a voice, and I was like, I think that's Dee singing. And as soon as when I heard her singing, like so low and faint, I was like, oh, she's gonna be fine. Like, she's gonna be fine.
No big deal. Yeah.
And go for it. Yeah, no.
Yeah, and the Lord, everything started working. They got an IV, and all of a sudden they started the transfusion, and it began a fight for my life. I mean, like, the Lord literally resurrected me. I think everyone in that room has no words for it still. And they had me in the hospital for another 3 days, but I remember, I believe it was on the third day, they wanted me to start walking around again. And I remember I just wanted, like, I couldn't even process what was happening because when I was still in the ICU, I remember I had asked someone by my bedside, I said, am I going to die? Because I still had I was like, I know Jesus brought me back to life, but like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And this girl had said, she's like, I don't know what to tell you. And like, it was an interesting moment, even in my spirit, because I was like, God just brought me back to life in front of this person, and they still don't know if I'm going to live. And it began this thing in my heart where I was like, no, I believe that God's going to keep me alive. Like, I believe that people are coming around me. I can feel the prayers of my family, of Compassion to Action, of my church, of my friends. I could feel it begin to lift my spirit because it was heavy to go into that. And I remember I believe it was the third day when they asked me to start walking around. I took my pole. I'm attached to the heart monitor. I'm like, probably look like a ghost because I'm so pale. And I remember I just wanted to be alone. Like, I wanted to process what just happened with the Lord. And I walked to the end of the hall, and there was this huge window. And this whole time they had me turned away from the windows. I didn't know what was going on outside. And I remember looking out that window, and everything was blanketed with snow. And I began to weep in the hall because it was such a prophetic picture of like, God literally just gave me my life back. It's like he wiped me like that pure a snow thing, like that unexplainable, like, like that breath of life. And I like lost it in the hallway because it hit me. I was like, God just gave me my life back. And I've been in worship ministry for I think over 10 years now. But after that, I remember praying to the Lord. I was like, God, I don't want to stay in the four walls of the church. Like, I want to reach out. I want to reach out. And I gave God like specific visions I had for the future of my worship that I wanted with him. And I remember Chris calling me, and he's like, Tiana, do you want to sing with us? And it was the exact things that I had prayed to the Lord. Like, this is what I want to dedicate my life to, God. I want to make sure that I'm, sharing the story, that I'm sharing the power of God, because I believe that if he did it for me, he can do it for others. And in that, like, it's been wild. I've been able to sing out my testimony. I've been able to just grow even in that. So, yeah.
Do you remember the song you sang?
I knew you were going to ask me this question. I was like, what's
you don't have to sing it. I was just like, do you remember it?
I don't remember the words, but I remember it had to do with healing. And I remember singing out, Jesus, you're my healer.
Oh, man.
And yeah, the rest of it was.
So after you'd come back and you're sitting there, no, I'm going to live. Like, did you ever speak out loud that, or was it just mostly internal while you're laying there?
At which part?
So when you came back to life and you're laying there and you're like, am I, you were saying like, even though I came back, and I knew that Jesus had given me my life back, that you said you were kind of in this weird place, and you looked at, I think it was like one of the nurses or somebody, and you were like, am I going to die? And they're like, I don't know, and you were like, no, I'm going to live. I'm going to live. Saying that to yourself. Did you ever speak that out loud, or was it all just kind of internal? Because I'm like, I don't know how low your energy was at that point. Like, was it even just too hard to speak, or was it?
Yeah, I mean, my energy was pretty low, but I tell you, so when that happened, I remember I was laying flat and tears started to stream down my face, because I realized I was in this moment of, am I going to turn to hope or am I not? But I'm so weak, and I can't even, I'm so weak. And I kid you not, in that moment, that's, I think, when I really started to feel the prayers of everyone around me. It felt like this hand on my back lifting me up to hope.
Wow.
Like something was pushing me in a good way, right? And after that, I as faith-filled people begin to fill that room and say, you're going to be okay. You're going to get through this. God rose you up. You're going to raise up again. And it's like, it is so necessary to gather around those that are weak and that are sick, because in the spirit, we are transforming the actual physical circumstances of what's going on. So I began to speak that out as I was beginning to regain my strength, but I had the people around me to start saying that as well.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why I asked is because words are so powerful. And I think so often, even joking, people are like, oh, I'm an idiot. Oh, I'm this, I'm that. And even what I love is that even scientifically, like there've been so many studies on the power of speaking things out. I don't know if you've seen those studies on like ice crystals forming and speaking certain words, like plants growing, and they'll speak certain words. And depending on whether they're life-giving words or, not, the plants will get gross as they're like growing, or the ice crystals will get super jagged. And then, but when they spoke words of like life affirming words, the ice crystals actually became like round and beautiful and like all this stuff. So I don't know if you've seen those studies, but it is so powerful to speak things out. I mean, Jesus even said, the words I've spoken to you are spirit. And so that's why I asked. And it sounds like, you even had people speaking over you audibly. Yeah. I just think that there's so much power in that. So you legit saw Jesus.
Yeah.
Like that's amazing.
Yeah. I would say too.
Yeah. And like, so when you saw Jesus, was it literally like just Jesus? Did you see anything around him?
For me, I just saw Jesus, and I saw a color that I don't know if I've ever seen on earth, but the only way I can describe it is like a light purity. And for me, I saw his outline, and I saw just very vague figures of his face, but his smile is what was the one thing that I recall. And yeah, it was also the presence of Jesus. It's that unsurpassable peace that just blew my mind in that moment. That's the main characteristics that I experienced in that moment.